All right, so in this brief presentation, I'm going to be talking about phonology and phonetics, as well as phonemes and allophones. And in our first lesson in this class, we talked about the properties of language, and one of those is its duality, that language is both physical and psychological, and that it is functioning in both realms simultaneously. And that's kind of what phonetics and phonology point to or indicate. Um, so, phonetics refers to the study of speech sounds physically produced by the human vocal tract in all languages, whereas phonology refers to the study of how humans conceptualize, organize, and categorize various speech sounds within a given specific language. So, for example, like in phonology, if you're studying English, you're going to be interested in sounds that English speakers make, as opposed to like "ee" or some clicking and popping sounds that might show up in another language besides English. But so phonetics is more concerned with the physical aspect of speech sound, and phonology is more concerned with the psychological, abstract aspects of speech. Um, and here's a way of illustrating that. So on the right, we have a representation of phonology. And we're focusing on the phoneme A. And so for the phonologist, A is this psychological category, this abstract unit that represents all things with meaning that can be represented by A. And then on the left is the phonetic manifestations of that sound, um, and it's concerned with how and where in your mouth you would like produce these sounds and what actual sounds would be produced, and then ways of codifying and transcribing those sounds. Here you see bag, or the way my cousins pronounced it, bag. And what we saw in the previous slide was an example of a phoneme and then allophones of that phoneme. So a phoneme is a unit of sound that distinguishes meaning, and then allophones are all the various ways of physically manifesting each phoneme. And a way I like to think about it is this idea of like form and content. Like if you think of a phoneme as the form of painting itself, just all things that involve paint, painting tools like brushes, and then like a surface, like a canvas or a wall or something. And then thinking of allophones as like an individual specific painting, Mona Lisa or Scream or something. Those all are contained within the form, the domain of painting itself. But if you branch off and you find Michelangelo's David, well, now we're no longer in the realm of painting. We have gallivanted off into sculpture, and that's distinguished and contrastive in many ways, that are noticeable. And here we see an example of what I'm talking about. So up here we have the phoneme A, and then underneath are allophones of it, bag and bag. And then the third one down, we see bug. Well, is that an allophone of A? It isn't, because we've pronounced it now in a way that's so substantially different that its meaning has changed, and it's now within the domain of the or of the phoneme U, and it's points to a completely different object. We're no longer talking about a portable container. We're talking about a small life form with an exoskeleton. So So yeah, see, here's this estuary, this merging of the abstract and the physical, the sacred and the profane, the material and the ideal, which is what's happening in language. We're producing sounds and we're also producing meanings. And phonology and phonetics are both different academic ways of of producing that phenomenon, of exploring that phenomenon, both of which have a foot in each domain, but one is more firmly planted in the other. Phonetics being more concerned with the physical aspect of language, and phonology being more concerned with its almost Platonistic, formal, abstract, uncorrupted versions that only exist in our minds, but are then tainted and made unholy when we say them out loud. Whether it's you're pronouncing it bag or whatever. But as long as, oh right, minimal pairs. That was the thing I was forgetting when I was stalling on bag and big for so long. Is allophones and phonemes having contrastive meanings and finding two words that contain all the same phones except for one, and then switching it out with another one and seeing if that changes the meaning of the word. And if it does, then you don't have an allophone, you have a separate phoneme. Anyway, that's what I meant to say on the previous slide. Thank you for watching my presentation. I'm Ryan Bunnell.